Aye.
All right, so we're gonna share good things. Who's got something good to share?
He did a great job. Just everyone that worked with Coach Conway complimented how well he did. He didn't just call one time if students were struggling or not turning in their work. He stayed on top of it, and he communicated anything that if there were problems or miscommunications. He did a great job, and that's just one parent. We had a whole bunch of people compliment Coach Conway, and he's retiring, so we're going to miss him.
I've got a good thing. We've got Dr. Williams, Mr. Shockley, and Mr. Johnson here tonight, so obviously just welcome, guys. Excited to get everybody started in July.
Yes, they haven't started anything prior to July 1, correct?
I was gonna be hateful, but they might throw something at me. So yeah, there's some work going on already.
Okay. Do we have any statements from patrons?
No statements from patrons.
Okay, we have a recognition. Dr. Johnson, if you'd like to
Yes,
present
so
that.
have a recognition. Miss Susan Douglas, she is one of just a few business officials in the state of Missouri who has been awarded the Certificate Business Specialist, a School Business Specialist Award. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. And she went to many trainings over the last 2 years. And it's not just something that anyone gets. So she worked really hard. She wanted to be a stronger business official for the school district, and I appreciate the work and dedication that she has given St. James School. I think we already had this on social media, so yeah. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, next up, we're gonna start with presentations. We have our library report up first.
Okay, so you guys have the report that we submitted, but we just kind of wanted to come and touch on some things. So we all know this is a crazy year. So if you look at what we gave you, you can see, I know for me, and I think it was for all of us, our circulation stats were down a lot this year. But that doesn't necessarily mean that kids weren't reading, because we also pushed digital platforms. I know I really beefed up my Overdrive, which is the digital and audio books for the students. And so that helped tremendously during quarantines and hybrid and virtual. And so just because we didn't always have kids in our library, we were still trying to make sure that they were still reading in other ways. As for me, at the middle school, I didn't really see real classes in the library until after spring break, and I know that you don't realize how much you miss something until it's not there. And so it was great after spring break whenever we finally started getting like the full classes back in. Before that, I would just go push into classrooms or just kind of provide support where I was needed. So I was able to serve on the Mark Twain Readers Award Committee this year. That's the state Readers Award for grades 4 through 6. And so they have 9 committee members, and then each year they ask one person to stay on the committee to rotate through the positions for the following 4 years. And so I'm getting to do that, so I'll be on it for the next 4 years as well. So that was just a lot of fun, and there's perks because the publisher sends you free books, like sometimes even before the publishing date. And so lots of free books for the libraries. But other than that, at the middle school, I really helped a lot with ICU, our intervention with the late assignments. I was a lifeguard, and if I didn't have students in the library, I was trying to pull kids, and I really focused in on a few to help get caught up, and we ended the school year with 0 missing assignments, so that was awesome. But other than that, I don't want to just babble on about what you have right in front of you, so just thank you guys for your support of libraries.
Well, I am often asked if I think libraries are going to be a thing of the past. And my answer is always unequivocally, absolutely not, as long as libraries continue to evolve to meet the needs of their patrons. And so that belief that I've held for so long was definitely put to the test this year because of all of the challenges and changes that we faced. But as I began gathering information for this report, I was very proud of what we were able to do to meet the needs, as Erin stated. We had to change what we did, and it looked a little bit different, but we did change to meet the needs of the kids. So probably the most beneficial project that I worked on this year was submitting an application to the DESE Exemplary School Library Program. And on this application, there's 21 indicators that DESE recognizes as essential elements to an exemplary library program. And to get awarded the recognition of exemplary, you had to earn at least 38 out of the 42 points. Sad news is we fell short. I was awarded 35 out of 42 points. It was disappointing, but as I processed through the feedback that I got from the evaluators, it was very eye-opening, and it gave me so many opportunities and doors and recognition of where I needed to go to move the program forward. And I was also heartened by the fact that only 7 school libraries in the state were awarded this, and out of those 7, only 1 elementary school was awarded it. So next year I'll be back. So one of the indicators required a strategic 5-year plan that was tied to our district CSIP goals. And I have linked that plan in your board documents there. And that has become my driving plan. And those are the goals that I have. And also on that, I note and document the progress that I'm making toward each of those goals. So in quick summary of those goals, the first one is to foster and promote the love of reading, which that's always going to remain the #1 goal of the elementary school library. And we have a very strong reading culture at the elementary school, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of that. And so some of the highlights for that is we had 100% of first, second, and third graders participate in the Show Me Readers Award, which is the reading award for grades 1 through 3. 25 fourth and fifth graders participated in the Mark Twain Readers Award. That, like Erin mentioned, that's for grades 4 through 6. It's a little tougher. Those are chapter books. The kids have to read 4 out of 12 chapter books to qualify to vote. So they have to have a little more motivation and drive for that one. Interestingly, we also had 10 teachers that asked to participate in the Mark Twain Readers Award, and so they all read 4 or more books. We had 3 teachers that read all 12, and they earned their picture on the Readers Wall of Fame too, so that was fun. We also had 17 students enter the annual book trailer contest for this upcoming Mark Twain Readers Award, and of those 17, 6 students were awarded first place, and that's super exciting because their book trailers were made public, and they are distributed through the state of Missouri to be used to promote this year's upcoming titles. So another goal that we had is to sustain and extend collaborative opportunities, which ties directly to a CSIP goal of improving or enriching the efficacy of collaborative teams. And so we logged 34 separate collaborative opportunities, and that included reference and research lessons, coding lessons with our robots, breakout boxes, which incorporate units of instruction and curricular goals with higher level thinking and problem solving skills, and then support for the Accelerated Reader program. The third goal is to promote the library as a common space, and this is to address the CSIP goal of increasing parent involvement. And so my goal and my plan is for that library to be used for parent nights, for meetings, for professional development trainings, any kind of meeting where you might need more space than a classroom, but you don't really require the big space of a PE. I'm hoping to fill the gap of that middle-sized space there. And then the last goal we had was to turn the old computer lab space, that's the classroom in the library, into a makerspace lab. And we put a pause on that due to COVID concerns because makerspaces is a lot of building and creating and designing. So a lot of touching, a lot of close-up partner work, and we just felt it would be prudent to wait on that. The robots are part of that makerspace, so toward the end of the year, I got to really push into classrooms and promote those, and that's also what I've been doing the last couple of weeks at summer school is promoting the robots and how to use those in the classroom. So there's more details on these goals and our progress toward those. I do want to share that professionally, I've remained active at the state level with the Missouri Association of School Librarians. I served on the Readers Award Handbook Task Force, which is the procedural handbook for all the Readers Awards. We revised and updated that. I served on the Maslow Nominations Committee, which reviewed nominations of qualified individuals for our new slate of officers. So we recommended a slate, and that will be approved tomorrow at the annual meeting. And I also served as secretary of the Maslow Legislative Advocacy Committee, and I'll be rotating to the vice chair position for that committee next year. So I'm very excited about that. And I have to thank Mr. Copeland and Mrs. James Miller because they have unwavering support for the school library program, and the teachers and students do too, and it takes the support of all the stakeholders to make a successful program. And I'm pleased, and it's a very big privilege to be able to lead that program. So, thank you.
Well, speaking of taking on before July 1, that's me tonight. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, for Michelle, she wasn't able to be here tonight, and then also kind of things that I hope to accomplish as the new librarian for the high school in this coming year. So for last year, as an English teacher and knowing from my background as far as that goes and to what was utilized with the library, I know as far as my ELA classes, we pushed into the library. Michelle provided lessons and book circulations and things for us to use with our database, her databases, digital citizenship, all those kinds of things. We did a lesson with StoryCorps with the Great Thanksgiving Lesson listen, and we had also the kids were very. She introduced them to the Sora app, and they use that quite a bit, especially with. Our checkouts were dramatically increased from that because of we had a lot of virtual students, and then with our hybrid learning, those kinds of things. Her students in the library tech class created over 130 promotional projects to encourage reading, so she did that with them as well. Looking forward to this next year, some of the goals that we've established that I would like to see. Continue. I'm going to continue to work with tech in implementing of course, working alongside of them with the iPads and maintaining those things. Digital collections for the library, integrating materials with the curriculum with the teachers. I want to work a lot with them on those kinds of things I would like to see as coming from the classroom to the library. I want to encourage pleasure reading, those kinds of things that I think will really promote the library in ways that have not been promoted maybe in the past. Collaborate with more of a wider variety of the building. Promote our online resources and those kinds of things, and continue just to in the upkeep. And I want to do more community outreach with the library as well. And as I get involved and see the kinds of things that we need to have done, I'm anxious to get started in those areas as well. We've also been, of course, Hope and Aaron and I have been working this summer together already, and we're currently writing a grant to get funding to attend the AASL conference this October. And I'm anxious to have some professional development behind me so I can push in and learn more things about that. And so I'm hoping that we'll know about that grant pretty soon and get funding to get some professional development. So I'm anxious for that. And I appreciate the opportunity to be in the library this year. So thank you.
Awesome. Librarians, thank you very much. Sorry I walked in a little late, so pharmacy world don't stop. But so next for presentations, we have a little bit of an update on our courtyard stormwater drainage. Dake Wells, Archer Elgin, whoever wants to go. Thank you. Hi, Bethany. Awesome.
Thank you. And happy to say that since last time I was here, there's been a lot of work accomplished on the stormwater system thanks to the Branco team. So I passed out before the meeting. Did everybody get a copy of this in front of them? So this is updated since our last meeting, but in the report that I presented at the last meeting, there were a list of 8 items that needed to be addressed. Each of those have been addressed in some fashion. So I'll only note a few of the differences. So if you look at the courtyard, which is down around here, we talked about there was a lot of debris in the hallway. There was a trough that carried storm water, and a portion of the storm water goes through that trough out to Hardy Street, the other through a 12-inch pipe that goes further northwest and discharges at another location on Hardy Street. So that portion was completely collapsed based upon some CCTV work that had been accomplished. Their crews came in, they cleaned all that out. We had hoped that one of the items that we had talked about was to be able to extend 3 6-inch pipes through that trough all the way from the courtyard to the box in the maintenance shop. What they found once they got the debris cleaned out from underneath the hallway is there was an 8-inch pipe that we hoped had stopped right under the threshold of the chemistry room door. That 8-inch pipe extended all the way through that trough all the way to the hallway. So essentially we were able to open up that trough, but there remains a long extension of 8-inch pipe between the courtyard and that hallway, which basically takes us back to the what we thought we were going to have with the original design. So we're going to gain a little bit more capacity by putting 3 6-inches through there. Now we're back to that single 8-inch as the kind of the choke point, but that's what we had with the original layout. So I think we're good there. Then on the 12-inch pipe, recall that we took the camera up from the Hardy Street side, went as far as we could, and found a displaced joint. Couldn't go any further. There was also a lot of aggregate debris in that 12-inch pipe, so we recommended getting all that cleaned out, fix that displaced joint, and then bring a camera in and inspect the rest of the pipe. So all that was accomplished. They dug up the pipe that was displaced. The Branco hired a TV contractor to come in from that point and take a camera all the way up through to the courtyard. And just before, so we were coming from the Hardy Street side and going toward the building, and just before it gets in actually under the building itself, there was a pipe that was probably 80% collapsed, and that's just the picture in the bottom left-hand corner. So what we found, through this investigation process, we had two major obstructions in the stormwater system. It goes two different directions, and it was collapsed or obstructed in in both of those directions. One under the hallway where it was full of debris, and this collapsed pipe. So again, through that CCTV process, we identified, obviously, to fix the offset joint, and then there was a few places of just kind of deformation in the pipe, again, from some type of weight on top of it. We recommended that to be replaced. We didn't think it was a huge capacity issue today, but by virtue of that deformation, the strength of that pipe had been decreased. So something comes on top of it again in the future, then it possibly would give in. So that's all been replaced, and I think it's slightly lower capacity because of some of the bends and stuff that we talked about in the last meeting, but I think any further changes to the system would kind of be cost prohibitive at this point.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so up until now, we have been what we call substantially complete, and that is contractually when you guys inhabit the space. So when we reached substantial completion, we did a long punch list of all the items that need to be fixed. Between the last board meeting and this one, Eric has gone through the list and signed off on everything that was complete. So Brandon White and I came down here today and spent 3 hours walking through and checking all those items. We did find a few minor new things that we'll add to what we're going to call a warranty list. So we have gone ahead and executed the final pay application saying the project is finally complete. And then within your contract with Branco, there's a 1-year warranty from the date of substantial completion. So those items will continue to be fixed. Like, for example, there's a light fixture that stopped working. That's a warranty item. They had put in a light that worked, that was installed properly, but it broke for some reason. So items like that they'll be taken care of. So that's kind of where we're at to date. So any questions on that?
So just to echo, we are complete. The project is done.
Finally complete. Yep. So we'll get those remaining.
So today is our completion date. We have 1 year warranty from today.
The 1-year warranty starts from substantial completion. So I believe on the early childhood, it was in September. And then I believe on the high school was in February. So it was the day that you guys actually took possession and had people in the space. So, and we'll do another walkthrough when we hit that 1-year date to come up with any other items on the list.
Okay.
So, cool. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And the GRP Wegman update. See Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
See you guys. How are you?
Doing great, doing great.
Good.
Bob Fogarty, for those that don't remember, GRP, and we got Maya and Fred back there also.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that if I had pointed the wrong way. I believe you all have this in front of you, and I think the goal tonight is to kind of educate the board as to what we've come up is our recommendation for the first phase and the second phase. Based on the funds available, the priorities that we understand the buildings have. We came up with a priority phase 1 that basically focuses on some key roofing areas at the high school that are of great importance to you, and then some other in areas that we can actually work on and not be burdened by HVAC changes and gas lines and conduit changes on the building, where we need to do those over summer where we can disable for long periods of time. The letter of intent, which I believe you all have a copy of, is we needed that because right now lead times on roofing materials are at least 4 months, realizing you want to get this roofing done this calendar year. We needed to get those ordered, and they were ordered the day that we got the letter of intent from you folks. So our goal is if phase 1 is a scope of work that the board is comfortable with. We'd like to bring a contract back, to, you know, we can get it back to the district probably in about, let's say, a week from Friday. They give your, you know, your process some time, and you could approve it at the board meeting next month or sooner, you know, as far as we're concerned. And we would focus on that. In the meantime, we're going to start to develop what the next phase is, and I'm hoping this isn't a secret, but Tim's asked us and Dr. Johnson to look at the possibility of what if we could do to potentially eliminate the courtyard and the problems that you've had associated with that. So some of the things that we've already assessed on the roofing are in this phase one, where we think there's some, what I would consider very simple things to alter the path of the water coming off the higher roofs and try to get them away from going to the courtyard. Let's start with the simple stuff. We can achieve some of that, and then as we get into the design further of this second phase, we'll see to what extent we can eliminate, or I'd say we're never going to eliminate all the water going to the courtyard in my mind. You're going to have some water going that way. But if you can reduce it, I think we can already reduce it by a third by doing some simple things right now. The further we can reduce that, the less liability that you have in the future as far as that goes. I wouldn't mind having a copy of what you all received there at some point.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. So that's basically where we're at as far as the first phase. The second phase, our recommendation is to focus on the high school, and let's take care of everything at the high school. That can be funded from your ESSER 2 funds pretty easily. This number at the bottom of this is less than 1.7. That's because there's some unknowns, and some of the unknowns are not that we can include the courtyard infill or roofing in, but we will probably start to alter things like how we do the HVAC. Some of the HVAC equipment right now pulls fresh air from the courtyard. Well, why would you want to change that if there's potential you're going to alter how that courtyard is going to be used? The other thing is there's some things relative to the structural and other things that were discussed in our original proposal that we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page of how we're moving forward with those in those particular roof areas. The other thing is the only way that we can do the HVAC at the high school is to really do it in conjunction with doing the roof and the gas line and the conduits. And there's no way we could fit that in this fall. You'd be without heat or something. So I think there's a very logical, systematic plan that we have in place that, you know, Wes and the rest of the administration team helped influence, and yet we were hitting their priorities, the biggest priorities in the first couple phases. The last thing that's kind of a footnote on the bottom of that is basically the ESSER funds, as more information becomes available for that, we think there's a great potential to doing significant amounts of the next categories of high important things to you folks, like the elementary roofs and HVAC and the gas lines and all those things. And I think you're well set up and positioned that depending on when that all comes about and you know that you have those funds, there's still a great potential of doing a lot of that work next summer. And we'll know more as time goes on, and we could develop that over the next 9 months and be ready to hit that hard next summer. So this phased approach, a lot of the work might end up, you know, occurring in the next 12 months, even though it's a phased approach, if that makes sense. The other things that are on here, you know, this document shows the key areas of the high school roof that we're going to take care of in phase one: the gym, the stage, band room area, and the metal roof area, and then another area that's just more of a maintenance. This is the hard thing about this facility. Google Earth's not keeping up with your additions. So, and this drawing is the best drawing we could find from the architectural information that you have on the construction. But this gives you an idea of the mess of where the water's going right now. And as you can kind of see, is like it's a whole lot of water going to that courtyard. And with some simple modifications, I think we could get over half of it going a different direction and away from that courtyard and going to the outside of the building rather than, you know, into the middle. So, and the next page kind of shows you some pictures. And this is that upper level of the, let's say, the renovated portion. And all that highest part of the roof comes down onto that lower roof, and 90% of that water ends up in the courtyard. Well, our goal is to change those downspouts on that side. I'm trying to think what elevation that is, but basically put a pipe at the bottom of those downspouts and take it from going to the inside of the building to taking it to the outside. And so some of that work is going to be done in this very first phase, because I even know, and I couldn't hear, it's with the air conditioning too well. I know that they make strides in cleaning out the pipes and things of that nature, and my hope is that you never have a problem, but the other way to help avoid things is to put a heck of a lot less water in there, and that's what our goal is. I think there'll always be some water going in there, but that's not uncommon for buildings to have roof drains in the center of them that go, it's just a matter of, you know, once you get that established, those things cleaned out, my guess is they're not gonna provide you as many, you know, problems like they have, you know, at this point, up to this point recently. That's what I'm available for questions. If there's any questions, I'm here, or Maya or Fred are also.
Question for Merlin actually on it. If, so on the funds, do we front the money and then we apply for ESSER funds at the end or in the middle of this? How does the funding work?
So we already have the ESSER 2 funds. It's there, so we can do the first phase right now.
Okay.
If we get to a point where we're ready to do the rest of the projects, and when, we don't know when that ESSER 3 monies will be here.
Right.
Right now, what I'm hearing is it's not gonna be any sooner. At the soonest, it's gonna be like in the spring of next spring. So, and that's just what we think, so it could be longer. If the board decides that you want to do something sooner than that, then you could look at, and Tim and I met with LJ Hart, Jeff Lindsay, LJ Hart today. There are lease purchase options to front that money and then pay it back as soon as you get the ESSER 3 funds. So there's a lot of options, and that's something we would bring LJ Hart in to give us what those options are if we want to do that quicker. But right now, what GRP's presenting is, let's go ahead and get started with phase 1 and see where that takes us. You know, I would like to, it's gonna be in the budget presentation, but 2 days ago, Governor Parson made a threat, I don't know if it's an empty threat or not, but $722 million potential withhold. Fred, did you do some research on that?
A little bit, yeah.
So I think it's more of a bluff than anything else, but $722 million to the state budget is gonna hurt each individual school a little bit. So we don't know what the future's gonna look like, what's gonna look like 6 months or a year from now. But we do know that we have that $2.5 million of ESSER 2. And so I think moving forward with that project is important. And I know you guys are working up a contract for that, and we can get that going. But, you know, I think you can put some contingencies in there about receiving the ESSER 3.
But this is an allowable expense without application, even though it's a
Yes.
capital.
This
improvement.
everything here meets it to the T.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
So when we say the rest of the roofing at the high school, that is not including what we just built, correct?
Correct.
So we're not touching those roofs.
Correct.
Okay, did we get those roofs fixed?
Wes, do you know about those roofs?
Well, they were leaking during your play a month ago. Is it fixed? Okay. So that's not included.
They've been informed. They've been informed.
Anybody else? Thank you guys very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
There you go. Second? Second. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to discussion topics. The first one is the vacant board seat. We had 3 candidates who submitted a letter for this, Brian Pearson, Larry Reinhardt, and Sandy Bast. And we had one more that dropped out, but I believe we need to discuss this, but my personal thought is I thought we need to give them all a chance to interview. And I'd kind of like to do it the day of our next board meeting, and that way we could just approve them that night. But we're discussing, if anybody likes it differently, we can discuss about it.
Well, I feel like that's how I was brought on, and we kind of need to keep everything on an even keel and keep everything consistent, so there's no doubt in what we do up here, that everyone's informed, and it's always the same every time.
I agree with that, but I think after this one, we need to set something in place as far as what we do moving forward, or what the board is allowed to do, or what our structure is, because my understanding, Merlin, Dr. Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong, there really is nothing set in place as far as how we bring on a board member in a vacant seat.
Yes,
But it's very vacant. It's very vague.
there's no set system or process. Justin, I agree. For the year, it's probably best to stay with doing the same thing. But like every new school year, you change things. So, and circumstances change things. If there's a need to have that 7th board member, you wouldn't want to wait a whole month. But if it's summertime, it might be okay to go ahead and wait another month to do that. So, but there's no rule anywhere in our policies or with MSBA or the law that says that you have to interview.
All right. Further discussion? Okay. We don't have to make any approval. They just gotta. So if we give them all, what we give you, 15 minutes? 15?
Yeah, I think it was, I was at 5:30 and the other one was at 5:15, I think, and then I think's how it went, if I remember correct. So with the new fiscal year starting July 1 at our next meeting, after we approve that person, should we go ahead and come up with some sort of a policy to start being this, the fiscal year? Would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, procedure. You put that in as a procedure.
Whatever.
Okay. Sounds good. With like 5 o'clock then? That'll give 15 minutes for every person and 15 minutes for us to discuss, and we're on to the meeting.
Okay, so 5 o'clock on the 21st.
Yeah.
You're always gone. You can zoom in.
All right. Then on to the MSBA 2021B policy update. Do you have anything you want to add on this one?
Not sure about. Talk to Tim about it. And discussing potential changes to what's being recommended by MSBA.
And I did see a few things on there about, like, for the kids that are virtual and things like that, that they can't hold a gun in the air, like they could come under some kind of disciplinary actions and stuff, whatever. So
Big one also on our end, just we have to notify them sooner than we did before. Before we had 30 days, now we only get 10 days. Quick turnaround,
Wow.
really. But
And we're supposed to keep a log of,
a log of who applies, who we accept, who do not
and
accept.
we submit those numbers.
Submit that at the end of the year, and then they analyze if they think it's fair or not.
that sounds like a lot of work. Okay. All right, on to action topics. First one's up. The City of St. James would like to amend our FFA city lease agreement that we approved on April 14th. The city has requested that we adjust the start term date of the lease from October 1st to July 1st. And we're okay, like our FFA people are okay with that?
Well, we've discussed this with them. I don't know if they're okay with it, and I spoke to Jim Fleming today, and I'm not sure if this is something that the board just has to do. So, really,
Rationale.
I really think, based on what Jim communicated, is that there's some tall grass around the arena and maybe in the barn area that they would like us to go ahead and start taking care of it, which I think we're going to do anyway. So I don't know if it's necessary to amend the lease agreement when we're going to probably do it anyway, but that's something for the board to decide.
The issue with this is that October 1 date worked out well for the FFA and those kids to go over there and start maintaining. We'd be asking a lot, and most likely Wes would end up being involved, and that's not what the intention was with that lease. So I don't think this is a good idea to bump this up, based off of what Jim is trying to accomplish by bumping this up.
What was the original date? October?
October 1.
I thought it was August 1.
For some reason I did too. I thought it was right before the fall festival.
Yeah, and they have their rodeo in August, and I thought it was August 1.
They're good with the rodeo. They're good with all of that. So they were always okay with it being under the city, and they just bumped the lease up because they've got citizens complaining about the tall grass, which it is. It's pretty intense, but I talked to Tim and Whit. They're going to be taking care of the arena in the next 2 weeks anyway because they've got 2 competitions coming in that they're wanting to set up. So
There's also about 1 mower width wide from the stakes that they set to the arena that it's not that big a deal for them to run their mower down. It's not like they're mowing the whole lot. They're talking 48 inches.
I think the biggest concern is around the bleachers is what Jim's concern is, and the plan is to gravel that. So.
So they're still gonna be okay with rodeo and the fall festival if we don't amend this?
The fall festival isn't on us anyway. That is on the arena itself is rented by the chamber for the fall festival, and the barn, yes, our kids take care of that, so.
So then we don't, that's what I say, do we still have to take a motion and
Turn down the new.
yeah.
Well, you make a motion in the positive, and then you have to vote it down.
Gotcha.
So I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend the FFA city lease agreement.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Okay. Shot down. All right, the COVID reopening plan.
So we are required as district, and this is tied to the money, to the ESSER funds, that we are supposed to post a COVID reopening plan that's updated on our website. And so we took the reason this is a little bit humorous is that we already did this back in August. However, there were schools in the state that they didn't open all year. So this is a requirement for all schools to make an effort or to have some sort of plan to reopen. And so what we did was we took all of our protocols and guidelines and mitigation strategies, and then there were 8 mitigation strategies that we had to actually address. And Tim updated that, and then I sent out a little informational message about some adjustments to our mitigation strategies for summer school, which we're going to, at this time, we're planning on applying in August. However, at any time, we can go back to the prior mitigation strategies if things should go back in a negative way as far as cases in the county and stuff like that. So all this is we need the board to officially approve a reopening plan, which has already been posted on our school district website. So,
Okay.
and it's there for you to see.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve our COVID reopening plan. Okay, got a second? Here we go. Discussion?
I would note that this is a federal mandate for all schools, and it's called the Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Service Plan. So we call it the reopening plan, but the federal government calls it the CRCSP. So.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Then we have our meal prices for next year. Right now, it looks like an increase in the elementary breakfast, or excuse me, is it an increase? I'm sorry.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, they're all staying the same?
Same, the same. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, read that wrong. All right, thank you, Linda. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the meal prices for the school year. Yes, ma'am.
That it's very, very likely that meals will be free this year, but we absolutely drained SFSP of all the funding. They have no funding left to give us from last year. So I went to 4 days of training with Desi, and in the training, they halted it and told us they couldn't discuss all of it because there's some that's gonna, I'm assuming there's meetings, they didn't tell us that, but there's meetings in July, between now and July, that they're gonna have to see what that is before they give us any more information. So I applied for August and September, and I feel like for sure that will be 3 months, and I don't know about the rest of the year. I think it will be, but I hate to say for sure. And that's just something, they'll notify us in July, and hopefully at the July meeting, I can let you guys know for sure.
Just in case, though, which is probably, I think we're in good shape with the free meals coming, but we're going to go ahead and ask that the board approve these prices, the meal prices.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the meal prices.
I'll move to approve the meal prices for
Okay.
the 21-22 year.
Second?
I'll second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approved. In our 2020-21 preliminary year-to-date balances.
So preliminary is the key word. We still have a couple weeks for our bills to come in. So there's a few bills out there. So this is not an accurate number, but this is just a preliminary budget summary of this year, and we're looking at. Obviously, we have the ESSER 2 monies in our bank account now, so it's going to inflate it a little higher than it needs to be, but it's there, and we are estimating it to be in the 37.4 range for our end of year balances, which is a very healthy range. Obviously, though, if you take that $2.5 million away, it will change that money substantially.
So next year when it's not 37, don't think something's wrong.
What happened, Tim?
We're living in the mid to high 20s the last few years. So when everything's said and done, it should end up back in that range at some point, 2 to 3 years from now. And that is it for that.
Okay.
We'll talk more about budget next.
Next, okay. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the preliminary year-to-date balances.
So moved.
Okay, a second? Second, Justin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. And then your budget.
Okay, so there's different versions of how I can explain this. I can do the quick 5-minute version. I can do the 20, 25, 30-minute version. But the one thing I will say is every year, the thing that school districts can control more than they can't control, you can control expenditures way easier than controlling the revenues. The revenues come in and that's what you get. The expenditures, in many cases, well, in every case, except for about 15% of it is already spent with salaries and benefits. So you really have about 15% of your funds that you can actually do anything about, but you can actually do something about your expenditures. So there's going to be more information about expenditures than there will be about revenues, because revenues is just, hey, that's what you get. And the state, the federal government could come in at any time and say, we're going to give you more, like they've done this year. We could have never anticipated getting $2.5 million bonus extra money, but it happened. But as easy as they did that, they can come back at some point and say, we're going to, like the governor's making a threat right now of withholding $722 million. I hope he doesn't do that. He's having a fight with the legislation right now. So hopefully they have a July 1 deadline on that, and there's more information that we will get in the coming days and weeks. But I hope that everything gets worked out by July 1, so there will be no withholds that would hurt our transportation. Early childhood learning would be hit hard. And then also, not us, but higher education. A lot of universities will be out, would be cut quite a bit of money. So I'm just going to break it down real quick into the funds. Funds 1 and 2, that is how we determine our fund balances. So whatever we have in funds 1 and 2 is how we come up with the term fund. This is our fund balance of 37%. So we're anticipating it ending June, at the end of this month, at 37.4%. This does include ESSER 2 funds of $2.5 million. So in this budget proposal, and we've done this in the past, we didn't do it last year because we were worried about short, the withdrawals, withholds that the governor was making threats last year, which he actually did, but then brought it back. But I'll be recommending a transfer of $1,504,270 from Fund 1 into Fund 4. And this is also the Maximum Classroom Trust Fund, which is $637,000, and the transfer of the maximum 7% basic formula, which is $866,000. So that combines for that $1.5 million, and that's a lot of money to transfer. But we're trying to get that money, so we're not holding all that money like we're a bank. We're going to put it in Fund 4, so that when we get to those projects, it is there and it can be used. So moving these funds will reduce the fund balances, which and I have scenarios here. So if we did no transfer, if there was no transfer, and with the money received, the ESSER money received, we would have about a 48% fund balance. So that's a lot. If we transferred, but there was no ESSER money, so if we didn't get the ESSER money, but we did this huge transfer, it would be about 24%. So these are big changes in the fund balances. No transfer, so we're not lowering the fund balance, but no ESSER, we'd be about 32%. So those are scenarios that we came up with on if we didn't have this free money, this ESSER 2, and then eventually ESSER 3 money. So Fund 3 debt service and schedules are being followed as set by LJ Hart, and Tim and I met with LJ Hart today. Everything looks good. We are paying an interest payment of $103,000 of the $2.5 million lease purchase that we took out last year to help pay for those bond projects. And then Fund 4, last year we froze the itemized project budgeting plan, which is we're going to look at here in just a second for the specific facility projects until the buildings were completed. So we froze that. This year we decided to catch them up. So we were putting a little bit of money in for the turf every year, a little bit of money in for the turf replacement, a little bit of money in for the track replacement. Last year we froze that. This year we're going to double that since we ended up getting a lot of money. So and we're going to go look at that here in just a second, but you'll be able to see that probably we don't need to add any more money to that in the future. We've earmarked that money, so whenever it's time to replace the track, the money's there, unless we rip into it and take it, but it's there. You can use it for anything you want, but we're trying to earmark that money just for track replacement, just for turf replacement. And then we have some other little projects there that we've discussed in the past. So that's what we're looking at. So now that the projects are completed, we've restored it, and that's really all I have for the funds. And so what I'm going to do is just, if you flip through this document, you have a document. On page 3 is a summary of adjustments. These are just the things that we have done this past year. The board's made some decisions on insurance. We increased our insurance, $87,000. And you go down here, numbers 4, 5, and 6. This is on page 3. Numbers 4, 5, and 6, that's the salaries. That's about if you put those all three together, it's about $300,000. And then you can see just the different things that we put in there that we've made some changes. If you go on to pages 12 through 59, and so that's a big gap. That's a big chunk of this budget document. So I typically always say every year, this right here is why we're here. So we've asked the principals to provide just a kind of a quick list of the activities that are taking place in every building, and then also just some of the accomplishments, staffing, and then their building improvement plans are in here. And this is why we're here. So all the things that we do, all the numbers that go with the budget is really here to support what we do for kids. And we're not a bank, we're not trying to make money. We are here to spend money we get money and we spend the money the best we can to provide opportunities. So a lot of people do forget that sometimes, that the reason we are here is for the kids. So pages 60 through 67 are salary schedules, which have been board approved. And then we added a new document on page 68 and 69. It's the vehicle use guidelines. But really the reason this was put in there is it gives you a list of our vehicle properties that we own as a district. So that's just good information to have. That should be updated every year. Then you go to pages 71 through 73 is a 4-year comparison of the revenues. The most important number there at the very top right is $21,436,000. You remember that number? And if you skip on to pages 74 through 95, on page 74, the most important number there is $21,562,000. So that we are estimating a $162,000 deficit. Now, historically here at St. James, we are very conservative in how we budget. So we are going to say we're going to deficit spend, but we try not to. So we're a little conservative on saying we're not going to get maybe as much revenues we end up getting sometimes. So especially this past year, we got way more than what we projected. But then on the expenditures, we say we maybe are going to spend a little bit more than what we really end up spending. So that's the goal. Of course, you throw everything out the window this past year, especially with construction. We're trying to catch up and complete these projects correctly and using some of the soft costs and beyond to make our buildings what we want them to be for our kids for generations to come. So we spent some money that we were not planning on spending. That's one-time expenditures. It's not going to be forever expenditures in the future as Tim takes over. So the crazy spending, sometimes with projects that go along with projects, and then obviously with COVID, with things we never thought we'd spend money on, that will not be forever. So moving on, page 96 is debt service bond payments, and that we have 5 different series of bonds, and you can see there what we're spending this year. And then we also have our lease purchase payment, our lease purchase payment service, which we're paying that $103,000. Moving on to page 97, it's the Fund for Itemized Projects budget. That's what we referred to. It includes that turf replacement and track replacement. And then we have discussions about potentially lights at the multi-sports complex and lights at the football field at the middle school. So those are things potentially to do. Those are just examples. You don't have to do it. You could do it, but it's there in case you want to. You can change this as much as you want to in the future. And then moving on to 98 is what we've already looked at a little bit on the preliminary numbers, is the summary totals. The bottom, I'd like to go to the bottom first, which is the 2021, this present school year. That's at 37.4% is what we're estimating. And then next year, if we spend the money that we're planning on doing for doing these projects, and we don't know what the future holds with the ESSER 3, but this is just what we are estimating. Our numbers, nobody can predict what we're going to get. So these numbers, the 37.40 down there, it won't be 37.40. It might be 38. It might be 36. It'll be somewhere in that range. At 32.66, that could vary 2 to 3% just because COVID's so unpredictable right now. Not COVID, but the ESSER funds and what we're going to get is so unpredictable right now. So these numbers are gonna be pretty steady though, because we're not planning on coming up with really expensive new things to spend money on, unless we're enclosing that courtyard area, so. So moving on. And this is the final page, the general budget summary, which breaks down the real estate and our tax levy of $275, which has also our debt service of 90 cents, and it kind of breaks it down, the formula, how we get our theoretical tax yield, and it's all theories there. And then, of course, the assessor gets their cut of $138,000, but that has our estimated fund balance, which will be approved by the board tonight. But as I will remind you, the real numbers at the end of June will come in, and they will be corrected, updated, and we will have a different fund balance sometime in September. So we can't really get it all done yet. We can't really truly budget because we don't even have assessment numbers in yet from the county. So that is it, and there's some really there's some good supporting documents at the end with some charts and then some historical data of our fund balances over the year, going all the way back to 2001. You can see at one point we used to be at 8.36%, and we've gone all the way as high as 42%, and we've stayed steady in the low 30s, high 20s most every other year. And according to the financial experts in the state, as long as you keep it in the 20% range or higher, you're in good shape. So we're at St. James, we've always been in very strong financial shape the last 10, 15 years, so things are pretty good. So asking the board to approve this preliminary budget.
Keyword preliminary.
Yes.
So, which I was going to ask this after we had our little talk the other day. Have we ever toyed with the notion of moving our budget approval back so that we know the numbers? Or is that?
We usually have it the last week.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
so,
after July
well,
1st.
so what many schools do is it's not really a big approval. It's just here's the preliminary budget. Or you need to approve something in June, but
In
then you
June,
always
anyway.
come back and then you amend that budget updates in August or September. So.
It's like the government, if we don't approve one today, our school technically shuts down July 1.
We got to keep rolling.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right.
it's
so,
a procedure.
So I need a motion to approve the proposed 21-22 budget, please.
So,
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Thank you for putting that together. Thank you, Susan.
Well, Susan put the numbers together. Shannon actually put the document together. So there's a lot of people that can be thanked. Tim got really involved this year, and he's ready to go, and he's understanding it very well. So I have full confidence in that good things ahead for St. James Schools.
Good thing Susan got certified.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Got a preliminary budget approval. Okay, superintendent's report.
So we started planning an August summer school, and the principals put out that information and to the parents, and we didn't get a lot of feedback on participation. So at this time, we're not going to pursue an August summer school. That was something that we wanted to provide that opportunity, but I really think people are wanting their kids and themselves, and even teachers, they're looking for a break. So obviously if there's opportunities and if we start getting a bunch of people making phone calls, we'll open that back up. But right now, we're not looking at an August summer school. COVID grant updates. I just like the board just to have this information that Susan has done an outstanding job chasing these dollars and applying for all the grants. And you can see where we're at. She just added the ESSER 2 grant at the bottom there at 2.5. So there's a lot of grants out there we're able to go after. And Josh Cahill, he finds out about a lot of them and he works on them. But Susan is the one who, at the end, gets it done. So She's done an outstanding job. If you have any questions about any of the information on here, feel free to contact myself, Susan, Tim, and we can discuss that. I'm pretty excited about something that's coming up for St. James, the district, and for parents especially, is something called a Titan Web Store. And so this is an online payment system for our patrons, for our parents to be able to pay district fees, donations, and managing student accounts online. And so that's how people like to do business. Now there is going to be a small service fee for those who want to do that. If they don't want to do that, they can just pay like they've always paid. But this is an easy way to put it on your phone, and there it is. You pay, and they can do lunch, breakfast, and everything. Okay, Linda's got her own thing figured out, but this is. So Susan and Linda worked it out, and they collaborated. There were some other possibilities, and this was the one that kind of stood out as the one that would work the best, especially with our meals. So appreciate the hard work that you guys did that you put into this, and I think it's going to be a good thing for especially this is a new generation of parents that everything's on the screens. So it's a good thing. The AMI, the DESE requires school districts to approve an AMI, Alternative Methods of Instruction Plan. We have 36 hours. Every school's, if this is approved, you have 36 hours where you can prepare and organize and communicate a plan for your students to learn virtually. So we have our plan approved by DESE, and there's the letter, and so we are eligible to use that if we want to. So we have a communications plan. This is a plan that I use as the superintendent of schools to communicate to the administrative team and all of our staff of how we communicate, not just internally, but externally throughout the community. Tim and I sat down and we made a few updates, but this doesn't need to be board approved. This is just what we do. If you see anything of concern, we can change that at any time. And then we have student handbooks. They're all there for you to view. Now, the only thing we ask our principals is to make sure that you do not go against the policy. So you can reference policy, but their student handbooks are just procedures. And if there's something in there that you have questions about or you don't want them to do, they can change that at any time. So if you have any questions for our principals, or if there's anything that you have to note that's maybe something that's going to pop up with parents, this would be a good time for the principals to mention it. Is there anything that's noteworthy?
Lots of new things because of the MSBA requirements.
With the virtual?
No, just the MSBA.
Oh, just the new policies?
Yeah.
The new policy.
There's lots.
And so hopefully you have references to the policy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's nothing to discuss there, no questions, we'll move on. Personnel handbooks, there's nothing major in the personnel handbook, stayed pretty much the same, but there were some day change, some little things that we made some updates on, and we removed some listing, or actually just the verbatim policy language, because we're just referencing the policy instead of listing the whole policy, and especially our classified handbook. So that's the only change there.
I just have a quick question about that. So then, do we distribute this anyway each year so that they're aware of updates, or how does that work?
It's on Safe School Training as part of their training in August, that they have to sign off that they read that.
So they have access to it.
And it's also on our website and with the staff.
Okay. I'm just curious.
I don't know. If they
Right,
click a
but
button
it's
that
there.
says they did.
It's a lot. It's a pretty lengthy document, but the information's there, and we do reference it quite a bit when things come up. So, and Tim has some information about the Aspiring Leaders Program update.
I just kind of wrapped everything up in one to try and speed things along tonight. Real quick, I did want to recognize our Teacher of the Year, Melissa Keeney, classified staff members, Craig Southard. We made a little video. Hopefully you guys saw that on social media. I thought it was pretty cool to just see how excited they were. Next year, back to school, we've got some awards that we'll give them. hopefully keep growing that. Summer school, you can see numbers there. The Aspiring Admin Program, obviously that's something that we started this year. Got some administrators out of the program, and then formed our first intern program. Moving forward, the plan is to keep doing things very similar to how we did it. Dr. Williams is actually been invited to sit in on the mega test and making the mega test for administrators next year. So this is kind of one of those things when you start something, you at first don't know if you want to let go of it. So initially it was something that I was going to kind of still keep under my hat next year. But I think she's got a lot of experience in that area, and I think she'll be able to offer a lot. So that'll be something that she might change a little bit moving on into next year, but the overall foundation of it will be the same, kind of moving into next year. So I did add on here the last thing, back to school. Convocation is August 17th at 8 a.m. I know you all have jobs, but if you'd like to come just for the very beginning part of it, just for an introduction, I thought the quicker I could get it to you, the more of a chance that you could realistically get there. So 8 a.m., you can be out of there by 8:10 if you want.
In the location of that convocation?
Auditorium.
That's going to be awesome.
Gonna be fun.
All right, we have a school nutrition report.
I apologize, I didn't get a report to you guys, but, I kept waiting for new news and it never came. So I'm just gonna give you a couple of quick updates on the MASH house that is now the nutrition center. We have the FFA, I've talked to them about taking off that little playground out back, and they're gonna do some type of garden. We got it together too late this year to do a real garden out there, but they were talking about maybe a pumpkin patch or something. So they're gonna utilize that area, and I think they'll do a real good job out there. And then we're gonna eventually get a freezer in there to where we can have our commodities, and then we'll have one room full of nothing but canned good commodities, and then another room full of dry commodities. We're gonna have another room that we feed the virtual kids out of. I've got a lady that makes all the meals for home, and she puts them in a box or a sack, however they need to be, and hands them out to the parents once a week for the virtual kids. So we're gonna use one room over there for that. I've also offered the Buddy Pack program to come over and have a room where they can have their items stored, because I know right now they use a closet just like that, and it's kind of dark and scary to go into. So I offered to let them use one room over there, and they can come over and put it together over there, whatever they want to do. It'll be their area. So hopefully we're going to get that going next year. And then I have an area that I'm going to make, a lot of you don't know, if you're new, the school food staff is required by the government to have so much professional development every year. They have to keep up on our training. So, and if they don't have it, within 30 days, they can't work here anymore, or in a public school. But they kind of let it go for the last couple of years during the pandemic. But we're gonna make a room, like a training room over there, so that it'll be easier for them to get over there, and say if we have people that don't have computers at home or whatever, they can get over there and access it and make it easier for them, or we can get over there as a group and do it as a group. Also, we, actually, a couple days ago, I had a bunch of the schools down here from different areas. We have a consortium with 5 different schools to do our bid process. And that's usually about a 2-month process, to get all the food items together and all the supply items together, get it turned in, get it back to us, and then we all got together the other day and approved what items we wanted to buy from what vendor, depending on the price. So that room that's over there is gonna be kind of a training room and a room where we can get all of our schools together. I've also had other schools tell me if you know, 'cause we have quite, and thanks to the administration, we have quite a bit of training here. Sometimes I bring in chefs or I bring in trainers from the warehouses, and they train my staff in different areas. And some of the schools around me have told me, if you ever have any of those, we never have the opportunity to get them, so we'll send our staff, so hopefully we can have some of that staff over there too. So it's kind of just a rough building right now. I did pour the concrete today, so that's a good thing, but eventually that's what my plans are. And when we get it all worked out, I'll give you guys a view of it. Or we can even come over and visit.
Thank you, Linda. Okay. Moving on, we have the facility report. Wes, do you have anything to add?
Well, I could add.
He's been hiding from me lately.
Been trying. She's got a lot going on over there now. We have that schedule to get all that work done. The freezer she was talking about, that's happening. Getting some of the doors. We're turning a house into probably what should have been done a long time ago to more a commercial building. We have to because of the food and her requirements of that facility. So that's a big project going on as far as that. I really don't have anything to add that over there.
I've been over there keeping track.
Yes, she is on it. The high school, the flood, we were chiseling away at the repairs needed there. The biggest hang up over there right now is going to be the carpet for the band room and choir room. It's a special carpet because that was old concrete with no vapor barrier underneath, so we had to get the specific one that was just spec'd out by Dake Wells. And right now it's looking like August before that carpet's even in to install. So other than that, the sheetrock repair has been made, the paint's been repaired, so we're stumbling over ourselves, my staff, trying to get everything else done, and with summer school going on, we're trying to get everything else moving in the right direction, but right now the hang up is still, for me, the high school, just with everything going on there, and now GRP is getting in there, so we're getting things completed. The high school is always troublesome, and I am worried about the carpet getting in and having the building ready for start of school, just because I can't make the carpet myself. So we talked about other options, but Dake Wells really said, well, if it's not to this spec, you know, and I have to assume they know what they're talking about to that specific carpet, so that's what we're getting. So that's what we're waiting on over there. Besides that, other buildings, my staff have been trying to work around summer school, get floors waxed, trying to have a normal summer. So we'll be excited when kids do get out of the way and we can really start getting the rest of the floors waxed. We're going to be able to strip a few areas. Last year we did some, but we need to continue getting the floors stripped. It's easy just to say, oh, we'll just, so your VCT floors, it's easy just to top scrub and put more wax on top. But if you do that, really about every 3 years, you're supposed to strip all that wax off and start over. So the middle school, about 4 years ago, had never really been stripped. So we stripped it all down. So it was my only building that was really far behind. So anyway, long story short, we're trying to stay on track this year, and I have no doubt that we will get everything waxed that we can, except for possibly some of the high school where I'm waiting on from flood damage. They're supposed to replace some of the VCT that started floating, so I'm hurry up and waiting on there again something in the high school, but it was small areas. So pavement, I don't know if you guys have seen that. The middle school, I think it looks great. Out here at the high school, it's looking good too. So that's been happening. As you heard from Dake Wells, I guess our project's complete. I don't know if anybody heard that, but that's what I heard from back here. I mean, it says complete, so pretty excited about that, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
There next Not going there yet.
we
Still working on the warranty
we,
stuff.
we want to believe you, Wes. So.
I want to believe it as well, but as we were walking around, it's like
Take pictures.
kind and safe problems. It's really just more work to now keep up with warranty stuff, which is going to be fun. So.
You're right there.
That's really all I got. We're just trying to keep going, so I don't know if you guys got any questions, but that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Moving on to the MSBA report, and I'll just summarize really quickly what it was about. The session of the Missouri General Assembly just was completed. They talked about the passage of the state's first ever school voucher program, which is not a good thing. $25 million in tax credits will be distributed. Some of the positives, though, is charter school expansion was defeated. Moving school board elections in November was defeated. Also talked about economic development and tax abatement and how we need to stay away from tax abatement in the future, hopefully. That takes away from school districts when you abate taxes in a local county or city, like Walmart and then some, other industries get abatement, and so that just takes away from schools. For school, really what board members need to be doing, and was recommended by MSBA, is going out and fighting for schools to be as good as you can be, so that people want to move here, not because they get a free facility. They want to move here because their schools are great. The other big thing right now that's going on is the teacher recruitment and retention is a big topic, and the challenge of the school districts, not just in Missouri but across the nation. Right now, the pool of teachers that are retiring is so much bigger than the pool of young people or just new people getting into the profession. And so in the next 5-10 years, we're going to be in trouble if we don't do something about that. So DESE is putting in an incentive for school districts to, there's $10,000 grants for every school district out there to start a Grow Your Own program. And I think, John, this past weekend, you participated in have some information that maybe you want to share?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty easy money. That $10,000 will be available to spend over a 3-year period, and it can be used for stipends for current teachers to develop a Grow Your Own program. It can be used for expenses inside a Grow Your Own program. Grow Your Own can be, you can call it that. That's what a lot of these larger schools are calling Grow Your Own. It can be a Future Teachers of America program that we invest more into. Basically what it comes down to, Merlin alluded to it, but the chart that they showed us is it's actually the next 3 to 5 years is going to be a deficit with COVID. They have about an 11% retirement rate over the next 3 years, and of that 11%, they only have 3% in the college pipeline right now for replacements. So, the little schools, even smaller than St. James, were really shaken, obviously, and then even the bigger schools are actually providing scholarships, $2,500 a year for all 4 years to 2 teachers that are aspiring to become teachers, and then they're guaranteeing them jobs when they come back. So that tells you that it is a need, not just at our level, but on both sides of us. Pretty crazy.
So there is a application process that'll be out there, I believe, starting July 1 for school districts to apply for this grant, and you just have to have some sort of plan to propose. And Tim and I, we've discussed this, and he's got something planned for getting that submitted. So, and
the retention funds will be available later to apply for, correct?
Yes.
For a retention program.
Yes. So DESE's holding some of this some of the ESSER funds that we can get. There's more out there for us to get on top of what we're getting for ESSER 3. So they get a certain percentage, and so that's what they need to be doing, is coming up with plans for us to be able to work as a state to try to get more teachers out there everywhere. So, all right, and then lastly, the registration for the MSBA annual conference that begins this week, right? Or no, next week, the 28th. And that the conference is in Kansas City at the Kansas City Convention Center. And so hopefully I'll see several of you there next year. So, and that is it for the MSBA news, and that's it for my superintendent report.
Make motion to adjourn to closed session.
Oh, one thing before we do, I want to say thank you for your 5 years here. We really appreciate your time here. Tell you what, it's not been the easiest road, and you've battled a project, and you've done really a lot of good for St. James. So thank you very much for what you've done. And once a Tiger, always a Tiger. So
Yes.
you're always welcome back here.
I always have fond memories, and you guys have been good to me, and I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a great school, and I have people here throughout the community I'll call friends for a lifetime. So appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Now I make a motion to adjourn to closed session.
All right, the second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand.